Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Wednesday, the 20th of September. Good to have you aboard. We are part of the Believe Podcast Network and presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys. 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you've been involved in any kind of an accident, slip and fall, hit and run, maybe there's a malpractice situation, car accident, whatever it is, you're dealing with a personal injury, you call Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. They treat you like family just like they did me the very first day before the very first day that we went on air here for ZASLOW Show 2.0. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, I only send you to the best. 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. Glad to have you here with us. We're right smack in the middle of the week. We got a lot happening here. Continue on with marching toward week 3, home opener for the Dolphins and Broncos. I'm hoping to, hoping to have some fun news as far as Sunday goes. Maybe we'll do some type of meetup or something. I'll let you know more about that probably on tomorrow's show. We'll be able to get to a little bit of that. So like I said, I'm hoping there may be a meetup type situation where I'm going to be able to be there at the game on Sunday, and I'll let you know more about that coming up. Now, speaking of football, everybody knows, hey, football's back, and that means our newest sponsor here on the show, Bet Online. Bet Online, your number one information source for all your sports wagering info with all the up-to-minute stats, news, scores, matchup breakdowns. Get the latest game odds, spreads, totals from the NFL and college football. It's at your fingertips with Bet Online's real-time updates and statistics, news, and odds. I mean, what better way to make smart bets, to make the winning plays, and to be able to know what's going on than with the Bet Online app. From week 1 in college football, NFL, all the way to the college football playoff and through the Super Bowl. Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the Bet Online website today or use your mobile device. Get in on the action. Remember, use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. So, a lot still to talk about. As far as the fallout from Monday Night Football, Nick Chubb, who we don't even know. Like, we know it's super serious, but I feel like we haven't been told yet what the actual severity is, which I feel like is a terrible sign. But there's fallout, there's back and forth between the Browns fans, the Steeler fans. Was it dirty? Was it not dirty? I think it was a dirty hit. That doesn't make Minka Fitzpatrick a dirty player. Like I said, like I used the comparison yesterday. I'm not an asshole, but sometimes I do asshole things. Doesn't make me an asshole. Minka Fitzpatrick may not be a dirty player, but I think he made a dirty play. I think it was a dirty hit. Former Pittsburgh Steeler, former FSU Seminole, Bryant McFadden, he's got the podcast with his cousin. We're going to get him on the show today. We're going to talk some football with him. That'll be a lot of fun. We got some more Damian Lillard stuff to get to, as it seems like there's a growing momentum with the Lillard stuff. We're less than 2 weeks away from training camps getting going, so that's obviously not a coincidence. Now, I do want to mention something, and I'm glad that this came up yesterday. All right, so I got a message yesterday on, or I got a message on the YouTube yesterday. I got a message yesterday because I upload, not the whole show, I upload usually about half of the show. All the interview guest appearance spots that we do on ZASLOW Show 2.0, I always upload to YouTube, to the YouTube page at ZASLOW Show. And I upload about half, maybe a little less than half of the rest of the podcast where it's just me. I upload onto the at ZASLOW Show YouTube page. And I got a message yesterday from Josh. Josh sent me a message yesterday. I literally didn't hear any Miami Heat talk despite the title of the video being named, Are We Close to a Lillard Deal? Not sure if this was a mistake, but I was annoyed with the lack of Miami Heat talk. Okay, this is a fair thing to comment, and I'm glad that Josh did this. And yes, the title yesterday of the show is Are We Close to a Lillard Deal? Part 1. And so I put the part 1 because I feel like that's self-explanatory, which means, yeah, that's not the whole show. And the point is, I do a podcast. ZASLOW Show 2.0 is a podcast. I don't do a YouTube show. I do a podcast. Now, for your benefit, if you want, something different, you want to be able to watch some of this show, you want to be able to see me, where for years I was doing shows for 18 years on terrestrial radio on 790 The Ticket, you can never see me. So if you want that, and especially for the guest interviews, that's fun to be able to see the interaction with the guests on video. I do a podcast. I don't do a YouTube show. But for your benefit, because maybe you enjoy that, I put at least half of the show on the YouTube page. And I specifically put part 1 so that you know, oh, there must be a part 2 somewhere. And like I put in the show description, you can catch the entire show wherever you get your podcasts. So the title of the video that I put on the YouTube channel each day is the title of that episode, that day's podcast episode, which yesterday was, Are We Close to a Lillard Deal? So I'm sorry that you felt like deceived, Josh, but that's the name of today's episode. That part was not included, and that's just by coincidence. That wasn't on purpose, but the Lillard part, the Lillard discussion, was not in that part of the video that was uploaded to YouTube. I want you to listen to the podcast. The YouTube is extra. So if there's something that you feel was not included in the YouTube portion that you feel may have been included in the entire show, it's likely in that episode, that podcast episode, that episode, that day's episode, which is the podcast. So the whole idea is, and that's why, I'm with Believe, the Believe Podcast Network. That's the bread and butter, all right, for ZASLOW Show 2.0. I want you guys listening to the podcast. If you want to also watch some of the YouTube, God bless. That's awesome too. But the entire show, every day, is the podcast, and that's ZASLOW Show 2.0, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Believe Podcast Network. So I'm really glad you brought that up yesterday. You gave me a chance to write back on the comments section, and also a chance to explain it here today. So that's a good thing. Now, what's not a good thing, I was at the Marlins game last night. That actually was a good thing. Let me mention that real quick. What was a good thing was I was at the Marlins game last night. Here's where we stand with the Marlins. 10 games remaining. They're going to try and win the series tonight against the Mets. They won last night 4-3 after, again, another blown save in the 9th inning. This time it was Tanner Scott who gave it up, a couple doubles and a single. Boom, there you go. Game is tied at 3 after the middle of the 9th. And the Marlins won it with a Jake Berger bloop single up the middle. And the Marlins win it 4-3. A game that they had to have. You had a great performance on the mound from Braxton Garrett. Sloppy game. You had at least one error by the Mets. You had 2 errors by the Marlins. A bad news Bears type of error for the Mets, which resulted in the Marlins, I think, their second run of the game, where the pitcher threw it to third base to get the force out, and there was no one there. It was bad news Bears. But anyway, Marlins win yesterday. I was at the game. I was I shouldn't be surprised. I was going to say, I'm surprised at what a small crowd it was yesterday. But, why would you ever say that about a Marlins game, that you're surprised at what a small crowd it is? I could say that I'm surprised because, the official attendance was just under 11,000. Bad for 2 reasons. Number one, you would have thought there'd have been more Mets fans there. It's the Mets. You usually get a big crowd for the Mets, but the Mets suck, and there's only 10 games remaining now after last night, so the Met fan really wasn't there. But it's kind of shitty where, you got the Marlins, who are now a half game back of the final wild card spot, and you had under 11,000 people there last night. So I was a little bit surprised at the lack of crowd. Me and my son Jordan, we went last night, and great time. I love going to Marlins games. It's just far. It's the timing of it. I love the early 6:40 start time, but because of the 6:40 start time, coming from where I come from here in Cooper City out west, I'm headed down there in rush hour, like the end of rush hour. I'm heading down there like 5:45. And so I ended up getting there. I left at 5:45. I got there middle of the first inning. So it took me an hour to get there. A long drive. So anyway, we went last night, really fun. Because the Marlins won last night, they still find themselves a half game back of the third and final wild card spot. But they're a half game back of Chicago now for the third and final wild card spot. They're 1 game back of the second wild card spot, which is Arizona. So with 10 games remaining, the Marlins are a half game back and 1 game back of 2 playoff spots. This could be a really fun final 10 games. You got to get into it now. Only 10 games remaining. And here's what you got. So the Marlins are going to try and win the series tonight against the Mets. Then you get a day off. Then their final 3 home games this weekend against Milwaukee. Milwaukee leads the Central. Very tough. And could be a first-round opponent, a wild-card opponent for the Marlins. And then the Marlins have another day off, and they finish the year 3 at the Mets, 3 at the Pirates. So tonight's huge because if you could win this series against the Mets, the Brewers series is going to be tough, but then you got your final 6 games against bad teams. 1, 2, 3 Cancun for those teams. Mets and Pirates. Now, I say it could be a potential first-round matchup with Milwaukee. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is, so Milwaukee right now leads the NL Central. Here's what's going to happen, because the Marlins are not going to, they're not going to be able to, they're 3.5 back of Philadelphia, excuse me, for the top wildcard spot, which would give you home field advantage. The second and third wildcard teams don't get any home games. All 3 games are at 1 stadium, and it's the higher seed. So the first wildcard team, excuse me, they're going to play the second wildcard team, while the third wildcard team plays their series at the NL Central winner. Sorry, I had to take a sip of my vitamin water. So let me say it again. The first wildcard team is going to host the second wildcard team, best of 3. The NL Central winner, who's going to finish the number 3 overall spot. Jesus. Terrible cough. The Central winner is going to host the third wildcard team. So you look at it, would you rather wind up facing the Phillies, or would you rather wind up facing the Brewers? I think you'd probably wind up rather play the Brewers, which would mean you finish third as far as the wild card goes. Second wild card team is going to play the Phillies most likely. But the important thing to note is, if the Marlins make the playoffs, I've never been to a Marlin playoff game. I've never been to a baseball playoff game. It's likely not coming this year because the second and third wildcard teams don't get home games. So that's important to keep in mind. But anyway, this is the spot we're in right now as far as the baseball goes. 10 more games. It's going to be a furious finish here. Half game back of the third spot, 1 game back of the second spot, and there you go. So huge game tonight for the Marlins. I believe Yuri Perez is on the hill tonight for the Fish. All right. Before I give that, so that's the good story of going to games. I'm going to give you a bad story about going to games in a second here. First, I want to tell you guys, though, about Brunt Insurance. If you're a ZASLOW Show 2.0 listener, I want to make sure that you get the best insurance out there possible. Whether you're talking about your car insurance, your boat insurance, life insurance. I've been getting my homeowner's insurance through Brunt Insurance for 10 years now. You call Brunt Insurance at 954-589-2204 or go to bruntinsurance.com. And it doesn't matter where you're calling from in the entire state because Brunt Insurance has offices all throughout the state of Florida. So you could be calling from all the way up at Pensacola, all the way down in the Keys. Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they have you covered. They know whatever area you're calling from. So when you call 954-589-2204, you know you're making the right call. The team at Brunt Insurance has the expertise and the experience to find the perfect coverage for you and the most affordable rate out there. I can tell you firsthand, I've been with Brunt Insurance for 10 years now. If you're not a single-family homeowner, that's okay. Their insurance policies also cover trailers. They cover motorhomes. There's so many options out there. You need renter's insurance, condo insurance. Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance specialize in making all the confusing options out there crystal clear. That's right. Their fully licensed staff at Brunt Insurance helps you every step of the way. 954-589-2204 or go to bruntinsurance.com. All right. So, like I said, we got a good story and we have a not good story about going to games. The good story was last night going to the Marlins game with my son. We had a very nice time. Bad story is, and I didn't know if this was real or not, but it turns out that it is definitely real. And I say I didn't know if it was real because it wasn't really getting a ton of attention, and it seems like something that would get attention, and now it is. So my son told me late Sunday night, after the Dolphin game ended, I think it was Sunday night or maybe it was Monday, and he said to me, a fan died at the Patriot-Dolphin game. There was a medical emergency and a fan died, and I was like, oh, damn, it sucks. You know, like, it's happened before, and it sucks, and yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But I didn't know, or we didn't know, that there was a fight, apparently. So here's what happened. And I'm reading this from ESPN News Services. A person attending Sunday night's Dolphins-Patriots game at Gillette Stadium said the man who died after what officials called an incident there was punched in the head 2 times. In an interview with several local media outlets, Joey Kilmartin said he saw Dale Mooney, a 53-year-old from Newmarket, New Hampshire, confront a rival Dolphins fan whom he'd been arguing with during most of the game. Arguing during most of the game, I mean, what? It's such an unpleasant experience. Like, I know a lot of people like going to sporting events and especially football games, and they enjoy like the back and forth banter. Like when I went to the Heat Knicks game. Heat Knicks game 2, I think I was at. Game 1 or game 2. And Heat won, of course, took that ass. And throughout the game, Heat fans sitting in the row right in front of me, and Knick fans sitting in the row right next to me. They were arguing back and forth throughout the game, but it was lighthearted trash talk. You could tell, no animosity. Like I like this, I like trash talk. You know, totally lighthearted. But for me, like I'm there. I'm like, I don't want to talk to Knick fans during the game. I don't want to talk in any way, shape, or form to fans of the other team, especially if I actually hate that team, if that team is a rival, and especially if it's in a setting where the game is really important, like a playoff game. There was one time, I'll never forget this, and like I said, I don't think I'm an asshole, but I could totally be an asshole sometimes. And I remember it was in college, and the Dolphins were playing the Bills. Now you gotta remember, so we're going back 20 years ago, and this was like on the tail end of the Dolphins being good. This is like right before they started to get shitty. So they had Ricky Williams at this time, which was the end of them always being good and the beginning of them being shitty, you know? So Dolphin games were still really important every Sunday, and they were playing the Bills. And me and my friends up in University of Florida, all Dolphins fans, all huge Dolphin fans. And there was this one kid who I already didn't like. He didn't live in our building. I don't know where the fuck he came from. Like, he was friends with one of the roommates. I don't know. But we're in the apartment, and he's in the apartment. He's watching the game. Like I said, I already didn't like him. Dolphins are playing the Bills. He's wearing a fucking Bills hat. All right? So we know I think we knew he was a Bills fan anyway. He's wearing a Bills hat. He's in the room. It's Dolphins Bills. So I'm already agitated, A, that he's here because I don't like him. And B, he's wearing the Bills hat. It's Dolphins Bills. And then he made, like I think he cheered at some point for a positive play for the Bills. And that just set me over the top. And I told him, I go, you gotta get the fuck out of here. You cannot watch the game with us. You gotta fucking leave. So, and now again, I was probably being a dick. But the point is, I don't watch games with fans of the other team. I don't want to have any kind of interaction with fans from the other team. And especially, I've seen the Dolphins play on the road one time. It was in Jacksonville. We were at the University of Florida. Me and 3 of my friends, the 4 of us, we went over to the game. It was a lot of fun. I was expecting Dolphins won 24-10. Sam Madison late pick six sealed the game. I thought it was going to be like some kind of animosity, but those fans there in Jacksonville so soft. No animosity whatsoever. But you go to a game as the opposing fan, I don't understand why you want to get after it with the other fans, why you want to have a back and forth. I don't even want to be watching the game around people who I don't trust, people who are not at the same rooting interest as myself. That's just me, I guess. So anyway, I continue. It seems like such an unpleasant experience to the point where you're arguing back and forth, and clearly this is a situation with animosity. You're arguing back and forth at the game for most of the game. How is that enjoyable? Anyway, I continue on. And here is the fan who witnessed things is saying, he, Mooney, the guy who died, went over to section 311. So here, he's going over to another section, which, what are you expecting to happen there? It's going to be a fight. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, he went over to section 311, and he basically engaged in mutual combat with the other fan, Kilmartin told the Boston Globe. A lot of people started to try to pull them apart. It looked like somebody was in the middle of them, and then a man in the Dolphins jersey reached over and he connected with two punches to the victim's head. It wasn't something crazy or out of the ordinary until 30 seconds later, the guy wasn't getting up. Which that right there, by the way, the fact that it's described as nothing crazy or out of the ordinary, it's so commonplace now, especially in the upper levels. It's so commonplace now for fights at football games. It's gross. Kilmartin shot video of what he said happened at the Foxborough, Massachusetts Stadium, and I've seen video of it. You can't really tell what's happening other than it being a big scuffle. Police and personnel responded to the facility's upper deck shortly before 11 p.m. and found Mooney, quote, in apparent need of medical attention. The Norfolk County District Attorney's Office said Monday in a news release. Mooney was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead, according to the release. The results of an autopsy are expected this week. Massachusetts State Police are investigating what transpired. And then you got comments from the wife. Gillette Stadium officials said in a statement they're heartbroken to learn about the death of Mooney, whom they described as a lifelong Patriots fan and a 30-year season ticket holder. So the situation is very real. This guy died. He apparently got punched in the head a couple times. Was the punch in the head that caused some type of like brain hemorrhage or something? Did he fall and crack his head open on the ground? I don't know. But they're going to find this guy and he's going to be charged with manslaughter and he's likely going to spend the rest of his life in prison over fucking what? Over a stupid football game. Over fans yelling at each other. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. And you go, see, I really debated when I was a new father, I really debated if I was ever going to take my kids to a football game. And my initial thoughts were, it's not a place for kids. I'm not taking them to Dolphin games. I'm especially not taking them to Hurricane games. Hurricane games are so much worse when it comes to that kind of stuff than Dolphin games. I've never actually been around with my kids. When I was younger, I've been around plenty of bad incidents at Dolphin games. I've never had a bad experience as a father with my kids at Dolphin games. Hurricane games, though, are the worst with that because the Hurricane fan has no respect for the university. You know, fights don't happen at... I feel like it's less likely for fights to happen at these major schools because the fans there, they're also usually alum. And they care about the school and they're respectful of the school and the school's reputation. The Hurricanes football fan is a Hurricanes football fan. They're not a University of Miami fan. So they don't care about the school. They didn't go to the school. They don't care about the university's reputation. They treat the football team like a professional team. And if that means getting into fights sometimes, it means getting into fights sometimes. The Hurricane football fan is very poorly behaved. But anyway, I actually debated, I don't think I'm going to take my kids to football games. And then my older son, Corey, he got to an age around like 6 or 7. And I was like, you know what? I think, you know what we'll do? We'll sit club level. We'll sit in the club level seats and we'll see how it goes. And so that's what I do. we never sit all the way up in the upper level. When we sit in the upper level, we sit in the front row. So we're never going to run into any problems there. What's going to happen? But we've never had anything but good experiences at Dolphin games. And Hurricane games too, for that matter, despite what I just said. So we go to games. I'm very careful. I'm always looking around. I'm monitoring the situation because I'm with my kids, you know. But there was a time where I'm not sure football games are the atmosphere for my kids to be at. I ended up getting over that, and instead I'm just very vigilant when I'm at the games, and I make sure that everyone is safe and I know what's going on all around me. But I don't know, man. We live in a violent country. We live in a violent world, and at sporting events, and I think things have gotten a little worse after COVID, where people just kind of forgot how to behave. But we live in a really violent place where at these football games, you very rarely get fights at basketball games, never at hockey games, never at baseball games. But football games, some of these dudes who go to games, they feel like it is their right to get pissed drunk, behave very poorly. If someone objects to their poor behavior, it's a fight. If you bump into somebody, it's a fight. And if somebody is wearing the jersey of the team that you don't like, it's also a fight. It's fucking gross. That's what it boils down to. Is some of these people who go to football games, they're fucking animals. And one of these animals killed another person. And who gives a shit? It's a Dolphin fan. Like, you know, I hear the Boston fans and Patriots, oh, Dolphin fans. Has fucking nothing to do with Dolphin fans. For all we know, he's a Bostonian who likes the Dolphins. Has nothing to do with Dolphin fans. Dolphin fans aren't going to be sticking up for this guy who killed this other man. Nobody's sticking up for him. Who cares what shirt he was wearing? He's a piece of shit who's likely going to go to prison for the rest of his life. But there are so many people like that out there who are just looking to fight at sporting events. I don't get it, man. We live in a violent, fucked up country. And people love fighting at football games. They love it. It's awful.